Hello and welcome to the Wednesday Till I Die podcast. I am Matt Johnson, and you join us for a special look into a figure shrouded in mystery surrounding Sheffield Wednesday in its recent history. We look into a Mr. Amadeu Paixao, Director of Foremost Sports Consultants LLP. He's been active in this role since 2016 to now. He has also been a trusted advisor to Mr. Dejphon Chansiri for a number of years. He has been one of the most prominent figures at this football club, namely in recruitment. He's worked with a number of managers and coaches in the last 10 years. He's been involved in countless player dealings. Many have come and gone, but one man always remains when the dust has settled, Mr. Paixao. The questions that need answering, and we will attempt to tackle them, are very much: who is he? What does he do? What's in it for him? How would you go about operating at a club like Sheffield Wednesday? And how culpable is he for this mess? So first and foremost, who is he and what does he do? To understand this, you have to go back to the start of Chansiri's reign when Dej acquired the club. He knew nothing about the business of football. Some would argue he still doesn't. But he sought the help of a committee filled with football people. He also courted the attention of Doyen Sports, more on them later, and a one, Amadeu Paixao, a Portuguese native now living in London, a former football agent who has been described by Nancy Frostick in an article in The Athletic by anonymous sources as like a big teddy bear, but undoubtedly someone who is well connected and highly skilled. In his time at Sheffield Wednesday, Amadeu has been involved primarily in recruitment and contracts. He serves as the point of contact for managers, the man who has the ear of the owner, and for managers seeking to communicate with Dej, Amadeu is the man to go to. Indeed, some former managers have actually preferred to go through Amadeu rather than deal directly with Dej. Sources in a historical article in The Athletic have said he's a good guy who works under considerable pressure, often having to pivot on targets or transfer targets and field calls from Dej in the early hours of the morning. I am here reminded of one of the great quotes from the film Layer Cake.
One more thing, young man. Always remember, the art of good business is being a good middleman. Bye-bye.
And since arriving at Sheffield Wednesday, Amadeu plays this part beautifully. We all know how difficult the chairman can be in any conversation. There is plenty of evidence to show this. And here is where Amadeu comes into his own. Friendly and personable, an understanding ear when the chairman is playing silly buggers. He listens, he understands. He then relays the information back to the chairman. That is his role in a nutshell. To be the elected man on the ground, the director of football, the head of recruitment, the consultant for both owner, manager and players alike. And herein lies the first of many problems. One man for all these roles. It could be said that there's bound to be a conflict of interest somewhere along the lines. In my opinion, the problem is, as one person posing to be the one who understands everyone and has everyone's best interests at heart, the reality is that you have no one's. And sooner or later, you will upset someone in a professional capacity. It is impossible to manage that situation, as at some point, you have to side with someone. The question is who? Is it the owner, the man who brought you into his inner circle and entrusted you, keeping you on a yearly retainer, allegedly £250,000 a year? A man who has given you the capacity to make money on top of this on individual transfer dealings. Sure, that makes the most sense. You don't bite the hand that feeds you. Or perhaps, harping back to his football agency days, it is with managers and coaches you work with these most frequently, and after all, whilst in post, you need them on side. Who knows? Maybe it's in your best interest to keep these good relationships. Football is a small circle after all, and you never know when you may need them again. Or is it with those that make this whole industry tick, the players, some of whom will be represented by people you are very familiar with, perhaps even part-owned to some degree by agencies? Yes, their careers are short, but players are the most valuable commodity. They all talk, as do agents, and this is the first and foremost how you got into the football business to begin with. It could be said that actually the answer is much more simple. You look after yourself, because what's good for the above is good for you, right? It cannot be too much of a stretch to suggest a man of this importance at a football club, a trusted advisor to the chairman who speaks to no one else, perhaps they and they alone will understand the fullest scale of the disaster here at Sheffield Wednesday. To date, he's done precisely nothing, to public knowledge, to change things or ruffle feathers. Given his position, this seems the minimum within your role as an advisor. You challenge where should be challenged, and you step in where things need to be done or said. This may seem like revisionist history for some, however, it is again important for context in understanding how we got here. and perhaps looking to shed some light on the question of what's in it for him. For those of you interested, you can find the information discussed on the website theblacksea.eu. It really does make for some fascinating reading. Doyen was once upon a time a global leader in the footballing world, but in particular, the business of football. Now, the company no longer exists in this format, but Doyen Sports Investments was founded by Nilo Lucas, who, in the space of less than 3 years, had steered a relatively small, unknown firm into a European giant of investment in football. Nilo Lucas was an advisor to clubs, who also acted as an agent and an intermediary. Does that sound familiar? Where Doyen fell foul was there was a massive data breach. It must be said that it was obtained illegally. The documents and data uncovered, however, were sent to every major news outlet, and at the time, they made for compelling reading. Within the documents that were leaked, it spoke of shell companies in Malta, incidentally where our current shirt sponsor Mr. Vegas is registered for tax break purposes, the UAE, and in the documents, they were full of secret commissions to assist with player transfers, false billings by consultants and clubs for transfers, backdated contracts. The list is endless. Now, this is a tale as old as time in football. Barry Fry has often been labelled as the wheeler dealer of English football, but we're going back to a golden age, the wild west of English football ownership in the 80s and 90s, and whether we like it or not, football is as much a business as it is about the product on the pitch nowadays. The true owners of Doyen were 4 Kazakhs, the Arifs, who later based themselves in Istanbul, and in 2011 the brothers founded a London-based branch of their Doyen Group, which crucially included a sports division. Nilo Lucas and the son of Tevfik Arif, got on well. They were both ambitious and hungry to make money. Nilo was appointed as the figurehead of the sports division and they moved into the world of football. The business plan seemed very simple. Get rich fast by any means necessary, and a high-end lifestyle, purchasing Bentleys, sourcing houses in London and hiring private escorts to fill them began. Their business strategy was very simple. Use footballers as a product to make money from, not seeing them as human beings. Their transfer business is quoted as resembling a cattle market. Well, how did they do it? It's very simple, really. You buy a partial stake in a player, often referred to as third-party ownership, and take a cut of every deal. This may seem a fairly alien concept to many in English football, and in particular for English football fans, but it is very well-versed practice across the globe. Most famously, Carlos Tevez and Javier Mascherano introduced the British public to this when they rocked up at West Ham many moons ago. Lucas and Arif were actually incredibly successful, and their business propelled them to levels of wealth and notoriety that they perhaps were not prepared for. Indeed, Lucas footed the bill for €195,000 for his 35th birthday celebrations, at which he hosted friends and clients for dinner and dancing at a Mayfair event. They were so well connected that even Florentino Perez of Real Madrid were amongst the attendees. Again, just to give you the scope of how many fingers they had in just how many pies, Lucas's firm represented the likes of Neymar, Xavi, David Luiz, David De Gea, to name but a few. It is important to stress here that TPO, third-party ownership, has now been outlawed by FIFA. However, there is still a discussion surrounding several workarounds. The most relevant, I think, to Sheffield Wednesday and world football in its present guise is with image rights, or the use of agents and intermediaries. Or in the case of Thomas Muller, the current dispute and hold-up on his move to Vancouver Whitecaps is around discovery rights. There is also a discussion for multiple club ownership, but that's for another day. This, however, helps fuel the discussion surrounding the effectiveness of the ban on third-party ownership and how wide Doyen's reach actually was. If you want more information on the murky waters and business dealings of this particular company, it isn't hard to find, but I really would suggest you start with the blacksea.eu. However, if you do not wish to, I'll summarise with a quote from the New York Times reporter Tariq Panja. The information football leaks made public, including player contracts, pulled back the curtain on the murky world of soccer finance, led to criminal tax prosecutions of several top players, and even helped prompt officials in the US to reopen sexual assault investigations involving Cristiano Ronaldo. So the leaks are valid. It's not just an ITK account running their mouth, as everyone likes to throw around nowadays as a phrase. So, why mention Doyen in relation to Sheffield Wednesday? Now, in an article posted on the 20th of March 2020, the Yorkshire Live ran a story penned by lovable journalist and once or twice of this parish, the Bulls are out, Dom Howson. In a sit-down Q&A with the chairman, and allow me here to quote Dear Dej, I used Doyen in an advisory capacity when I first bought our club, and they were helpful to me. Amadeu Paixao came on board as a consultant because I didn't know a lot about the football business. Dej continues. Amadeu then came with me as a personal advisor and a club consultant. There it is. Black and white, straight from the horse's mouth and all the other cliches. Doyen had its claws into Sheffield Wednesday in the form of Amadeu Paixao right from the very start. Now, Doyen as a company no longer exists, but Amadeu very much remains. After this marriage came a raft of players for Sheffield Wednesday, some good, some bad. It is undeniable in the short term Sheffield Wednesday benefited from the partnership with a Doyen advisor. It could be said that Doyen and Paixao gave us access to players we could have only dreamed about even a season before when we were watching Lloyd Isgrove come on as a sub away at Watford when Atinuiu ruined the promotion party at Vicarage Road. Indeed, Fernando Forestieri, Daniel Pudil, and later Alman Abdi found their way to Sheffield Sixth within the next 24 months. Alongside the likes of Gary Hooper, Alex Lopez, Lucas Xiao, Marco Matthias, and later Vincent Sasso, Stephen Fletcher, Jordan Rhodes. Now, I'm not implicating these players or their agents in any way, in fact, far from it. But it could be said that without Doyen in the room and its contacts, do we actually have access to them? To be clear, I am in no way publicly claiming that Paixao is in any way connected to the underhand dealings of the company that was brought to light in the third-party ownership. I am merely citing how this man came to Sheffield Wednesday and how this company has been found to conduct business. Those articles did bring to light that Paixao had worked within Doyen's network of shell consultancy firms to help facilitate TPO deals. On a completely separate note, does anyone remember Daryl Lachman?
Well, Daryl, welcome to Sheffield Wednesday. Are you excited?
Yeah, I'm excited. I love it.
Or Herbie Emanuelson? Felipe Melo, Marco Matthias, Modu Sugu, a Scottish defender who was a centre-back whose name eludes me. Jedi Gassama, Anthony Masaba. As a matter of fact, those last two shouldn't be too hard to remember. Returning back to the Football League's investigation into Doyen, the specialty of Doyen was actually acting as a usurer in the world of football, obtaining prohibitive interest rates or silent stakes in players, or better still, in a club in financial crisis, which are forced to sell their crown jewels or best young prospects or prized possessions. Sound familiar? The model Doyen used was simple. Buy a TPO or image rights in a player in the hope that the player is then sold on for profit for Doyen, who receive a share of the transfer fee paid by the new club. Whilst business is good, many may say, well, yeah, that's fair enough. Or better yet, place an advisor in a club. And in return for being welcomed to the club, they are in turn entitled to your network of players and other clubs. Trading becomes much easier. Officially, in this case, Doyen or a personal advisor, they have no influence over transfer decisions at the football club as stipulated by FIFA rules. But some have suggested that it's not a stretch to imagine otherwise. Let's look at the biggest case in relation to this, and it involves Manchester City. Shock. And a TPO agreement with Equilin Mangala. Remember him? The Portuguese international who was purchased from Porto for €45 million. Of course, Doyen had a TPO on him. And as a result, Doyen pocketed €10 million on the deal. I wonder who our record player sale is. I wonder what nationality or league he came from. There are countless global examples of these types of deals, and it works both ways, because although TPO was outlawed in 2015, existing TPO agreements could also still be paid. One TPO agreement we know for sure has Paixao's fingerprints on it takes us to Cypriot football, and again, this is referenced in an article written on the Black Sea. In Cypriot football, there was a phenomenon for a little while known as paper players. Players didn't even need to set foot on the island. Their presence exists merely on paper, hence the phrase. Dates are important here. So, in May 2015, FIFA banned TPO. In the case of the Cypriot club we are looking into, who is Apollon Limassol, the club became the firm, and in turn the owner of the TPO. So no longer was it a company like Doyen, it was simply the club who on paper used to own the player, and they then moved on. I hope you're still with me. The club do not, however, receive any benefits you would expect from a footballer, such as the player actually, playing or training with them. They're simply what is known in the trade as a bridge club, a destination where players are parked. They never or rarely take to the pitch, but act simply as a conduit between the two clubs. Now, to connect the dots, I wonder, did Sheffield Wednesday have any connection to Cypriot football in the last 10 years? Or better still, are there any signings that, for one reason or another, have had not much game time at Sheffield Wednesday? or barely trained, or been seen on West Street outside pubs smoking fags and sinking pints. On the 24th of June 2015, Paixao, then director of sports management company Principal Sports Management, is solicited by a one Tom Markham, a friend of the sporting director for the American team Colorado Rapids, to buy the economic rights on a player. The player in question is Shane O'Neill. The Rapids needed funds to build the rest of their squad, so O'Neill's economic rights were sold. He signed for Apple on Limassol on the 7th of August. The ink was barely dry and poor Shane had barely had time to unpack his suitcase, however, before he was moved on again on the 31st to Royal XL Muskron, making 0 appearances for either. In February of 2016, he's loaned to Cambridge United, where he makes 2 appearances. At the end of that loan, he comes back to Apollon before finally going to NAC Brega. 4 clubs, 1 year, a paper player. Again, if anyone can tell me who is Irby Emanuelson or Alman Abdi, and I still can't remember the ginger Scottish centre-back's name, this seems a much safer way to conduct your business. Everything is kept in-house, and as long as the paperwork matches up, who else needs to know? There is no need for a Doyen or any other, who subsequently, following the scandal, closed shop. It could be said that, of course, Amadeu saw this coming and set up his own consultancy firm in 2016, and by that point could do no wrong in the eyes of dear Dej, who made him his own personal advisor. So the question now becomes, well, if TPO has been outlawed and it's now 2025, 10 years on, how does a consultant or an advisor make money using a similar system with a few tweaks to get around the current regulations? Or better still, how would one make money by not working for a third-party consultancy firm, but for a club and a firm of their own? Well, if I was this way inclined, this is what I'd do, and it has taken quite a mindset shift to think like this, but let's give it a whirl. Remember, this is simply a hypothetical exercise for someone who doesn't know the business of football at all, and perhaps has watched one too many episodes of Entourage and Suits. I'm simply a football fan with an overactive imagination. Step 1. Find a cash cow, an idiot, a chicken who's wandered into the fox's den, a club with an owner who openly admits to knowing very little about football. You have to build and gain the owner's trust to work with them. Promise to give them access to a network of players, managers and coaches for a small fee. It sounds reasonable. You structure a deal that means you are actually able to take out a yearly wage. Nothing that will raise eyebrows, but a safety net. Within that deal also, you stipulate terms that allow you to work on commission for individual deals. On the side of this, you also set up a consultancy firm of your own, ensuring that you and some trusted others are directors. Step 2. Whilst the money at the football club is good, flood the club with good players on great deals for players, agents, and everyone involved, building the reputation of you and your contacts, ensuring that they know that at this club, if you need anything, come and see me. I'm the man that gets it done, with a smile, I might add. It doesn't actually matter if the player ever plays, trains, or even turns up at the club. It helps, but it's not important. The club signing players is the most important thing. Meanwhile, I, myself, continue acting as an advisor for the club and receiving a consultancy fee for the players as you go, effectively taking cuts on all deals. This isn't limited to just players. Football teams need managers, coaches, and especially if you've got an owner with an itchy trigger finger. Now, they may already have an agent, but many won't. If they haven't got much experience in the field, the likelihood is they've never had any need for an agent. Even better, you can act as their agent and as the club's advisor, as long as you play your cards right. Step 3. You convince players to see out their deal with the club. When the time is right for them to leave, ensure that they use you as a negotiator in some way. They don't need an agent. They've got you, after all. Haven't you looked after them in their time at the club? So why not use you to get the best deal for them at their new club? Or when the time comes to negotiate a new deal at the club, because their family is settled and you can offer them competitive money. Make sure that I'm the person they go to. I look after them. In turn, taking a consultancy fee from the club, but also an agent's fee, negotiating a new deal for the player. Step 4. When inevitably the club hits financial hardship, which it will, the good times never last, and all good things must come to an end at some point. How do you still make money here? In my opinion, the easiest method is transfers into or out of the club. Sign someone from, let's say, a foreign market for a low wage. They're just happy for the opportunity. You add in a consultant, broker, or agent fee to the club, and bingo. Whilst we're on this, there is certainly another discussion to be had surrounding football clubs being used as a front for various nefarious activities for far more sinister things than just individuals lining their own pockets. For example, overinflated transfer fees are particularly difficult to decipher or objectively determine. Clubs or an individual can cash in on paper and manipulate PSR rules and regulations, which, of course, if it's myself, I'm sure I'm fully versed in. Anyway, back to the transfers in and out of the club on the rocks. It would be really simple to just bill the club for your services for those transfers in and out. After all, I'm not employed by the club. I'm simply the chairman's personal advisor, remember. But what happens when there is no transfer fee? Well, even better. As instead of the money going between the clubs, it actually goes to the agents, the players and the consultants, into their wage packet, signing on fees and the like. And those who helped broker the deal take a small percentage. It's cheaper on paper, but the reality is it's probably only slightly cheaper. Whilst all of this is going on, I think it's fair to say that distrust is allowed to foster between all sides of the camp. The club is struggling, and you seem to be doing quite well. After all, I am the one to be trusted. Me and me alone. I have the club's best interests at heart, ensuring nothing goes in or out of the club without my knowledge. On the surface, I'm everyone's confidant and friend. After all, it pays to be friends with people. At least that's what I'd do in this situation. Thankfully, I'm not like this, and it must be exhausting putting on a face 24/7. It must be really difficult. Yes, the money's nice, as is my property portfolio and the pearl necklace around the neck of my wife. But think of all the people I've lied to. I've had to deceive along the way. Think of the moral dilemma I would have knowing I have financially ruined a football club, set it back decades potentially, as the club may not have other funds for basic upkeep, paying hard-working staff who I smile at and chat about their families as I walk the halls of the training ground on the way to my office. To our final question, I guess there is really only one man who knows the truth to the question of what's in it for him. Certainly from the outside, it seems a fairly cushy number. I mean, don't get me wrong, there will always be pressures and struggles, but that's true of any job, surely. It's fair to say somebody will have made an awful lot of money from this football club in the last 10 years or so, because for every broken football club, there are a few who did very well from the situation. Is Amadeu Paixao a lovable, cuddly teddy bear who is well connected in the world of football and highly skilled in what he does? Or could it be said, and it has been said by some, that he's a shark who was presented with an opportunity of a naive businessman who didn't know his arse from his elbow in the world of football, saw an opportunity to jump out of a firm in Doyen that was clearly about to hit the skids, took the same methods and business practices that he'd learned there and implemented them in a much quieter environment, where as long as you're careful, you can use the time at Sheffield Wednesday for your own gain. Only time will tell on that front, I guess, as once this hideous ownership has moved on, maybe, just maybe, somebody will talk. Until that time, I guess it's left to people to do their own digging and make up their own minds from the publicly available information. Thank you very much for listening all. I've been Matt Johnson. Please catch us on the debate show midweek and the main shows on Sunday. We'll also be back with a preview show for the upcoming season, starting at Leicester. Jesus. And to access all of this, all you need to do is sign up to Patreon. The link is in the bio. Thank you very much all.